The 2025 Met Gala was meant to be a celebration of Black fashion excellence, a night where elegance, heritage, and culture took center stage. But as the world watched celebrities strut in couture and sip champagne under chandeliers, something far more explosive was unfolding behind the scenes. Nicki Minaj didn't just arrive in a designer gown, she walked in with purpose. Beneath the glitz and glamour, a growing scandal was simmering. Hermès, the legendary luxury brand, was facing damning accusations of outsourcing its iconic Birkin bags to Chinese factories, all while continuing to label them "made in France." What began as internet rumors had spiraled into a full-blown controversy, threatening to shatter the image of one of fashion's most revered empires. At the center of it all stood Kim Kardashian, quiet, polished, and perfectly posed on Instagram. But behind the filters and exotic leathers, critics claimed she was playing a strategic role in the scandal's silence. Her posts showcasing ultra-rare Birkins conveniently aligned with the most heated moments of the Hermes backlash, raising serious questions about timing and intent. Was Kim just another fashion influencer? Or was she knowingly helping a billion-dollar brand steer public attention away from alleged deception? Nicki Minaj wasn't waiting for answers. She brought the confrontation to the carpet, turning what was supposed to be fashion's most celebrated night into a defining moment of exposure, accountability, and the beginning of luxury's biggest reckoning. It started as a whisper, just another fashion conspiracy buried in Reddit threads and TikTok comments. But that whisper turned into a roar when videos began surfacing of what looked like Hermes bags being mass-produced in industrial Chinese factories. These weren't artisan workshops tucked away in the French countryside. These were sterile, high-volume assembly lines, where luxury craftsmanship was allegedly replaced with cost-cutting and speed. One viral video even showed a factory worker boldly claiming that bags were manufactured in China, shipped to Europe, and then relabeled "made in France" before being sold for up to $40,000 a piece. The footage was pixelated, the sound was shaky, but the implication? Crystal clear and devastating. Luxury consumers were stunned. Influencers who had proudly flaunted their Birkins started questioning their authenticity. Fashion forums filled with stitch-by-stitch comparisons and speculation that Hermes had pulled off one of the biggest brand betrayals in modern fashion history. But what truly ignited the scandal was the timing. Just as the public began demanding answers, Kim Kardashian, arguably the most influential face in fashion, started posting her rare Birkin collection. Picture-perfect posts, impeccable lighting, strategically timed. To critics, it felt less like a coincidence and more like a coordinated cover-up. The internet couldn't look away, and what started as a rumor had now become a full-blown reckoning. As the Hermes scandal exploded across social media, Kim Kardashian's Instagram became an unexpected focal point. Instead of addressing the growing controversy, she doubled down on glamour, posting flawless shots of ultra-rare Birkin bags and exotic leathers, nestled on marble countertops and private jet seats. These weren't random uploads. They were calculated showcases of exclusivity, posted at the exact moments Hermes faced peak criticism online. While fashion watchdogs and ethical consumers demanded answers about outsourcing and factory conditions, Kim gave them something else entirely: distraction by design. Each post drowned out the noise. Each photo reset the algorithm. And to critics, it all felt just a little too perfectly timed. Insiders began whispering that Kim's silence wasn't accidental. It was incentivized. Not through traditional ad campaigns, but through behind-the-scenes perks, private access, and early drops no other celebrity could touch. She wasn't Hermes's official spokesperson, but she didn't need to be. Her silence became louder than any press statement, and her platform became a fortress shielding the brand from public accountability. To some, she was just showing off her fashion staples, but to others, she was a smokescreen. A luxury influencer allegedly used to manipulate perception, while the real story, mass production, factory labor, and the collapse of the Made in France illusion was buried beneath filters and likes. And that's when Nicki Minaj decided enough was enough. From the moment Nicki Minaj stepped onto the Met Gala carpet, the energy shifted. She wasn't just walking, she was making a statement. Draped in a custom Tom Brown ensemble that fused razor-sharp tailoring with delicate floral embroidery, Nicki looked like a general in high fashion armor. The contrast was intentional, feminine but fierce, elegant but unbending. Her icy black sunglasses concealed any emotion, but her body language said it all. This wasn't a night for pleasantries. While most celebrities posed, smiled, and blended into the Met Gala fantasy, Nicki stood apart. She didn't linger for interviews. She didn't flash a rehearsed smile. She moved with purpose, and everyone in the room felt it. The whispers began immediately. Stylists murmured, reporters took notes, and fans on social media began buzzing. Nicki wasn't just there to be seen. She was there to make sure something was heard. After weeks of swirling Hermès controversy and Kim Kardashian's carefully curated silence, Nicki's presence was loaded with intent. She knew exactly what the fashion world had been ignoring, and she wasn't about to let it slide. Her arrival wasn't just fashionable, it was confrontational. A silent declaration that someone in the industry was finally ready to call out the hypocrisy hiding beneath couture and curated captions. Nicki didn't come for photos, she came for truth, and every step she took hinted that a confrontation was inevitable. It didn't happen in front of a press wall. There were no flashing lights, no staged photo ops, no red carpet theatrics. It was quiet, almost too quiet. But that's what made it powerful. Nicki Minaj, eyes locked in behind her dark sunglasses, approached Kim Kardashian with the kind of calm that screams louder than any shouting match ever could. Eyewitnesses described the exchange as short, but intense. No raised voices, just a low, deliberate tone and pointed questions. Nicki reportedly asked what everyone else was too afraid to say out loud. Why were Kim's Birkin posts so perfectly timed with Hermès' factory scandals? And more importantly, did she know? Did she choose to stay silent while the world watched factory workers stitch luxury for pennies? For someone as media-trained and polished as Kim, the reaction was unexpected. There was no confident rebuttal, no deflection, no signature smirk. Just a stillness that said it all. She froze, eyes wide, body stiff, her silence louder than any defense she could have offered. Witnesses described the shift in energy like a jolt. Conversations died, heads turned. Even the most seasoned celebrities sensed something real had just shattered the surface of the night's polished illusion. By the time security stepped in, not to break up a scene, but to diffuse the tension, the damage had already been done. In that moment, the Met Gala's glossy fantasy cracked wide open, and suddenly, the whole room was forced to see the truth hiding beneath the glitter. The moment footage of Nicki Minaj and Kim Kardashian's tense Met Gala exchange hit the internet, everything changed. There was no need for audio. The body language, the eye contact, the visible discomfort, it all told a story louder than any mic ever could. Blurry clips caught from awkward angles and zoomed from across the room began circulating on TikTok, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter. But despite the lack of clarity, the reaction was immediate and massive. A single post pulled in 500,000 likes within an hour. Fans didn't hesitate to stitch Nicki's past lyrics about loyalty, betrayal, and standing up for what's right onto clips of her walking the carpet with silent fury. The symbolism was impossible to ignore. Comments flooded in by the thousands. Fans, fashion insiders, and even casual viewers praised Nicki for saying what no one else had dared to. This wasn't a shady tweet or a vague interview jab. It was a real-time, public confrontation. And that made it historic. She didn't just disrupt the Met Gala's fantasy. She shattered it. By confronting Kim in the middle of fashion's most curated event, Nicki exposed the truth that's often hidden behind flawless filters and designer labels. Many celebrities aren't just influencers, they're shields. Strategic tools used to distract, mislead, and manipulate the public while billion-dollar brands clean up behind the scenes. And Nicki? She was done playing the game. Nicki Minaj didn't just confront Kim Kardashian, she exposed the rot beneath the glittering surface of luxury fashion. For decades, brands like Hermes have built their empires on carefully crafted myths. The idea that every Birkin bag is the result of years of artisan training, handcrafted in serene French workshops with love and precision. That fantasy is what justified the $50,000 price tags, the wait lists, the exclusivity. But the factory leaks told a different story, one of mass production, assembly lines, and deceptive labeling. The bags weren't being made in France. They were being shipped there, labeled, and sold to an audience still buying into the illusion. Nicki's confrontation wasn't just a personal call-out, it was a cultural reset. Because when the truth started leaking, the industry didn't offer transparency. It deployed influencers. Celebrities with reach, timing, and aesthetic power suddenly began posting their Birkins and praising the brand's legacy, right as Hermès was facing its worst PR crisis in years. It wasn't coincidence, it was choreography, coordinated silence disguised as luxury content. But the public wasn't fooled anymore. Not after seeing a global icon like Nicki Minaj publicly challenge the narrative. Her quiet rebellion forced fans to re-examine everything, from the products they idolize to the influencers they trust. And in doing so, she cracked open a conversation the fashion industry had spent decades avoiding. Once Nicki Minaj shattered the silence, the internet did what it does best: investigate. TikTok creators, Reddit users, and fashion watchdogs began combing through timelines, receipts, and influencer content like digital detectives. What they uncovered wasn't just suspicious, it was damning. Side-by-side comparisons showed a chilling pattern. Every time Hermès faced negative press or a new factory leak went viral, major influencers would suddenly flood their feeds with Birkin posts. Carefully posed, perfectly lit. No mention of the controversy. Just glamour, exclusivity, and silence. It didn't take long before coincidence stopped being a convincing excuse and started looking like a well-oiled PR strategy. Fans began asking the questions no brand wanted to answer. Why were influencers suddenly pushing made in France narratives at the exact moment Chinese manufacturing leaks were trending? Why did top celebrities with millions of followers go quiet when the scandal broke, only to return with Hermes tags and luxury captions? The internet started pulling threads, and what unraveled wasn't just the Hermes myth, it was a larger web of complicity. Fans began asking the questions no brand wanted to answer. Why were influencers suddenly pushing made in France narratives at the exact moment Chinese manufacturing leaks were trending? Why did top celebrities with millions of followers go quiet when the scandal broke, only to return with Hermes tags and luxury captions? The internet started pulling threads, and what unraveled wasn't just the Hermes myth, it was a larger web of complicity. These weren't just fashion posts, they were distractions. Carefully timed plays designed to steer attention away from real issues. And for influencers who built careers on authenticity and trust, that silence wasn't neutral, it was a statement. And fans were finally ready to call it out. What began as whispers inside fashion circles quickly escalated into behind-the-scenes panic. PR firms and brand executives started reevaluating their biggest partnerships, not just with Hermes, but across the luxury landscape. The very celebrities who once drove billions in sales through aspirational posts and glossy red carpet appearances were now viewed as potential threats. If they stayed silent, they looked complicit. If they spoke out, they risked tearing down the very brands that paid them. The influencer bubble didn't just burst, it imploded. And suddenly, the faces that once symbolized power and prestige were being quietly pushed to the side. For consumers, transparency is no longer a marketing slogan, it's a non-negotiable. They want to know the truth behind the glamour, where their products are made, who is profiting, and whether the people they admire are standing for something or simply cashing checks. Nicki Minaj's decision to call out the silence wasn't just bold, it was a catalyst. She exposed the fragility of a system that relied on curated distraction and celebrity silence. Now the rules have changed. The mystique has cracked. And brands are learning the hard way that when accountability enters the room, no amount of luxury can keep the truth out. Nicki Minaj didn't raise her voice, but she raised the standard. Her confrontation with Kim Kardashian was more than a headline. It was a turning point. In an industry built on image and illusion, she dared to tell the truth in the most public way possible. And the industry heard her loud and clear. Now, fans are no longer passive consumers. They're investigators, they're watchdogs. And the celebrities who once controlled the narrative are suddenly scrambling to keep up. Because when the veil of luxury is lifted, and the cameras are still rolling, there's nowhere left to hide. Kim Kardashian may have been the face of this scandal, but the real story is bigger than her. The fashion world is under scrutiny like never before. And as the receipts pile up and the silence breaks, one thing is crystal clear. The days of blind admiration are over. The age of accountability has begun.